What's up everybody, Nola Deach here, and I'm coming to you from New Orleans. More specifically, I'm on the West Bank, and right across the river from where I'm at is something that hasn't existed since 1984. I'm talking about the 1984 World's Fair, the Louisiana Expo. And though it is gone, some pieces of it remain. And we're going to focus on one of those pieces, the gondola, or the MART, the M-A-R-T, Mississippi Aerial River Transit. Come check this out with me.
There's a voice calling you down the river to a dazzling celebration created by the whole world, all wrapped up in the magic of New Orleans. So come on down to the 1984 World's Fair. Buy your tickets now and save. For information, call 1-800-445-FAIR.
On May 12, 1984, the Louisiana World Expo, or World's Fair, opened its gates in New Orleans. Its theme was The World of Rivers, Freshwater as a Source of Life. The 80-acre site was located right on the Mississippi River downtown New Orleans, next to the Crescent City Connection Bridge that crossed the river to the West Bank. The fair would last 6 months and had an attendance of a little over 7 million people. Unfortunately, the fair was a financial disaster because attendance significantly dropped. Bankruptcy was declared while people were still visiting the site, and the 1984 World's Fair became the last World's Fair in the United States. Although the fair failed financially, most locals that were around during the time have fond memories from going there and enjoying the shows, the food, the rides, and the displays. There are a lot of things that remain from the World's Fair, including this piece right here. This used to be at the entrance of the World's Fair. It is now directing people to Mardi Gras World. Blaine Kern in his studio, best known for building so many Mardi Gras floats for more than 70 years now, built some of the sculptures for the World's Fair, including this one, Mr. Neptune, the Roman god of freshwater and the sea. The Barth Brothers, another float building company here in New Orleans, built some as well. Both companies built sculptures for two different entrances to the fair. The Barth Brothers built the two famously controversial topless mermaid sculptures at one entrance, and Blaine Kern Studios built Neptune, the alligator, and the mermaid at the other entrance. And check this out, Neptune still exists. Now he's missing his trident, but he's in pretty good shape considering how old he is. But he's now guiding traffic to Kern's Mardi Gras World, where you can see their float work on display when there isn't a parade going on. One of the favorite rides among the fairgoers was the gondola crossing the Mississippi River. The MART, or Mississippi Aerial River Transit, was a $12 million transportation system that brought people more than 2,200 feet from one side of the river to the other side, and then back again. The two 360-foot towers that were on either side lifted the small pods almost 350 feet into the air. Each pod was numbered, and there were a little more than 50 pods. Roughly 1.7 million riders traversed the river by air, but the expectation was double that amount. The gondola station on the main side of the river was on Julius Street, just next to the building that would become the Montreal Convention Center. This parking lot, which is now for the Riverwalk, was at the time filled with water, displays, and various other fair-related things that are no longer here. This wall here has been painted and recently touched up by the artist Robert Weiland, who has painted around 100 walls with whales and marine life. The Riverwalk, now a large outlet mall, originally housed some of the different countries on display at the fair. The gondola station has long been torn down and removed, but it's not too difficult to find the general area that it once stood. In comparing this picture, which is right about where I'm standing, to what it looks like now, you can see on the side of the convention center those circular vents, also the doorway there. So this is pretty much right where the station stood back in 1984. It's a shame it's gone, and there are no signs of it even being here anymore, but at least we have the pictures and memories to preserve what it was. If you look ahead, up there is the river, just across those railroad tracks. Walking up to the fencing here, this is part of the port of New Orleans. Cruise ships dock here. And unfortunately, it's a little hard to see through this fencing, but just about here is where one of the two 360-foot red towers stood that held the cables that crossed the river. I am now on the other side of the river, looking at the port of New Orleans, the area we were just at. This area is about where the other 360-foot tower would have been on the West Bank side of New Orleans. It's a little hard to see from this angle, but that is where the World's Fair was. That entire section was built into a wonderful event that has lasted in the memories of people for so many years. Over here on the West Bank side of the river would have been the other gondola station, and when people would come to this side, they had fun stuff for kids to see and do. Not much is left of the gondola, but when the cars were auctioned off, many people bought them to hold on to the nostalgia they loved. It's unknown how many of the 50-plus gondola cars are still out there, but there are a few around that you can find. Most notably is this one here at Nesbits Poeyfarre Market. This gondola car sits right out front on the sidewalk for people to see. It's home to some plants now, but overall it's really not in too bad of shape considering how old it is. The plexiglass is gone, and I doubt the doors would work like they once did. But it's really pretty cool to be able to see this up close, touch it, look inside, and see just how small these things really were. Could you imagine sitting in one of these little things hanging over 300 feet above the Mississippi River? I'm pretty sure if these were still in operation, I would not be able to make myself ride this. And I love that you can still see the graphics on the front and side. This was the logo for the mart. It's the tower. But check this out. Notice the number of this particular pod, number 26. This is a video taken back in 1984 from inside the station of this exact gondola car in operation. How cool is that? The World's Fair was also featured in a couple of movies. A Clint Eastwood movie called Tightrope, and another one called French Quarter Undercover, which featured the gondola itself in a very intense scene.
Einheiten, Explosion am Gondelbahn unterwegs. Alle Einheiten Code 3 befolgen.
When the ride existed, it was considered one of two of the best thrill rides in the country, the other ride being Space Mountain at the Disney parks. The ride didn't always run perfectly either. There are many times it would break down and people would be stuck in the pods over the river for long periods of time until it became operational again. When the fair closed its gates in November of 1984, the gondola was to continue operating as a means of transportation for people to cross the river, in addition to the bridge and ferry. However, this was not welcomed by a lot of residents, and it didn't last very long as the gondola ceased operations just 4 months later in April of 1985. Plans to reopen the gondola came and went a few times until the bank loan, which was set for 60 years, defaulted and the system was sold off at an auction in 1989. The winning bidder attempted to find someone interested in buying the gondola system, but it was not successful, so the mart was disassembled and sold off in pieces. The two towers on either side of the river stuck around until January of 1994, when they were finally demolished due to safety hazards on the river. The World's Fair may be long over, but there are a lot of people that remember it very fondly. Alright, well that's going to do it for me. If you happen to like this video, make sure you reach down below and click the little thumbs up icon, and if you feel compelled, click the subscribe as well. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed a little lanyap from this Who Dat. Go pass a good time.